Hi, and welcome to CSF TV. I'm Roxanne Rocks, and today we'll be taking a look at one of our very own U.S. veterans. And also we'll have a guest from Student Life who attended the Veterans Affair that we had here at Lone Star. But first, let's take a look at Who the Duck Are You with Emily and our new segment, Don't Be That Guy.
What do you mean there's no more Hot Pockets? Jeez, there's like 5 last night. I only had 4 this morning. Oh my God. Wow. Well, you know what? You tell Jerry to go, you know what?
I'm Emily Jorgensen, and this is Who the Duck Are You? Today we're interviewing the ceramics department.
My name is Glenn Edwards. I teach ceramics and art appreciation this semester. Been doing this for about 6 years here. Well, the ceramics class here, we introduce the students to different types of clay bodies and different processes of making vessels. One is hand building, and then within that area we use a coil technique, a pinch pot technique, and also something called soft slab that uses a slab roller to roll out the clay. Well, they have a lot of hand tools, sculpting tools that they end up using to carve the pieces and to put patterns and so forth in them. We have the kilns that are being used. We have several different types of kilns. We have the wheels, the potter's wheels. Some of the more advanced students end up using the potter's wheels. And then we also have something called a slab roller that basically makes an even slab of the clay for you to work with. Well, the basic firing techniques and so forth hasn't really changed that much. We still do, in fact, we do some very primitive firing techniques that is called pit firing. But the latest thing is a lot of the kilns, that the big ovens called kilns, are now computer controlled. So we can end up controlling the temperature, running it up to a certain temperature, staging it at that for a period of time, then running it up, and then it automatically shuts itself off. So that, I would say, is probably one of the things technology has moved into it. We're on the gas kiln that we have out there. I have to literally man it for 12, 14 hours and keep an eye on it. It's not computer controlled. One of the things that we've been involved in is actually kind of a communicative sort of thing where we make bowls. And the bowls are donated to the Bowl Foundation and then are sold once a year. And then all the proceeds from that goes to the Houston Food Bank. In the past, we have donated as many as 60, 80 bowls at one time. And this usually takes place in March. That's one thing we've been involved in. The other thing is that we're right now working on a project to make totems that'll be set around the campus. And these are going to be the creatures and animals and things that are native to this area. So birds and plants and snakes and raccoons and that sort of thing. But they're going to end up being totems, and hopefully we've got a grant to do this. We'll have several of those around the campus.
And that was the ceramics department. Back to you in the studio.
Welcome back to CFS TV. I have in the studio with me today.
Melissa Marcinkowski from Student Life.
Yeah, thank you for being here.
You're welcome.
Good. So what do you do outside student life?
Outside of Student Life, I'm in a couple French clubs. I speak French as a fluent language. So.
Oui, oui.
Oui, oui. It's a lot of fun.
Well, Veterans Day was November 11th. And what part did student life play in Veterans?
Student Life was there to assist the advising team.
Okay.
With Melissa Rossum and Susan Wilkinson in advising, they were the ones who set up the entire event. All the credit should really go to them because they did a fantastic job. It was really such a great event. We were there just to support them and come out to show our support to the veterans.
Good. And what did you do?
Personally, I didn't do much. It was my first week, so I was really there just to add that added support. I really am very thankful to all the veterans and all the time that they have spent servicing our country and always being there on the front lines to protect us. So I really just wanted to be there to show my support for that and them opening up the new center.
Good. And what was your favorite part of the event?
I loved it when they had the ribbon. They brought out this big ribbon with a big bow, and Dr. Levy was there, and she cut the ribbon with all the veterans, and it was fantastic. You could tell everybody was just having a great time, and they were so thankful that this was being opened, and that was my favorite part. It was great.
So what are some of the other upcoming events that Student Life will be having?
Student Life has many events coming up. Most of them coming up in spring, but this year, at the end of the year for finals, we have Final Destination. So it's going to be a day of relaxation for the students. So we will have Pet a Puppy from 11 to 1. So we have a team of therapy dogs coming in. So you can relax with these beautiful creatures and just take your mind off the finals that are coming. And then from 1 to 5, we're going to be having spa chairs. So you can come in and have a nice back massage before you go take an exam. So we really want to make sure that all the students feel really welcome and ready and calm for their finals.
Good, good. All right, well, where can one find out more about Veterans Affairs here at Lone Star College?
There is a Veterans Affairs and Resource Room, which is in CASA room 223. So it's on the second floor of CASA, and they have an advisory room as well as a computer lab.
That's good. Well, I thank you so much for coming
You're
and stopping
welcome.
by and giving
No
us that
problem.
information.
Yeah.
It was good having you.
You as well.
And when we come back, we will talk to one of our very own veterans. Welcome back to CFS TV. Now, today in the studio, we have our very own veteran.
Lawrence Perkins.
And what part of the service what branch were you a part of?
U.S. Air Force for 23 years
Wow.
in 2 stints. I got out at roughly 3 years and 9 months, went back in and did the full 23. In fact, a week Sunday will be the 30th anniversary of my retirement.
Wow, that's really good. So what are you going to do for your retirement?
Yeah.
And what type of training did you receive while you were in the service? But before you answer that question, I do want to ask you, what made you go into the service in the first place?
Well, I was in college, and I've been playing ball and running track and stuff, and I got this little letter from the dean that says, your wonderful grade point average is not sufficient to allow you to play ball. So I said, what the heck, and went in the service.
So what kind of training did you get while you were in there?
I started out I started and finished in the same field, which was basically intel or linguistics. Of course, I went to basic training, then I got selected to go to Russian language training, which was at Indiana University. So I spent essentially the first year in the service at one of the better known universities. Although I was wearing Air Force blue, it was like getting paid to be a college student.
So when you went to college, you had to wear your uniform to class?
Yeah. But everybody knew that we were in the Air Force, and the Air Force detachment, actually all of the intramural athletics and everything that we did, we were considered as part of the Greek stuff as opposed to the regular, so that we even had a sister sorority, if you will, like the frats did, that was, the Air Force had this sorority that was.
That's interesting. So elaborate a little bit more on that?
It was just neat. We got included in a lot of the little different things that go on in college that a lot of kids might not have, and it was kind of course, like any college student, you hung out at student union playing bridge and goofing around and doing stuff. And
Yeah, it's regular college life.
yeah, and it was neat at the time being in the Midwest because they had industrial league basketball, softball. It was fast pitch softball, which was big at that time. And you got to remember this was early 60s.
Really?
And the Air Force detachment was a part of that as well as part of the intramural sports scene.
Okay, good.
So you got to play ball and do all this other stuff. And oh, by the way, you had to go to class now and again.
Every now and again, right? So why the Air Force as opposed to any other branch of the military?
I have no real clue outside the fact that the Army just didn't appeal to me, although looking back, I would have been able to make rank much faster if I had gone in the Army. The Marines the same, and the Navy and the Air Force are about on par, but the Navy, you're out at sea for 6 months and back for 6, and if you ever got married, which I was by the time I went back in, I got out. While I was out, I got married and went back in the service. And I nearly went in the Air Force, I mean the Navy the second time, but my, what was now ex-wife had said if I went in the Navy that I could forget any association with her. So
Oh, you
the
were trying
first
to make.
time I'd gone in the Air Force, and I kind of liked it anyway, so.
So you just when you re-enlisted, Jesus.
I re-enlisted, and then I went into aircraft electronics and got pulled from class because I was a little older. I got pulled at the end of that class to be an instructor, and I was an instructor for 3-4 years. And in the process of that, went to Boeing's factory school and put together the first and taught the first 6 courses that the Air Force had on the Airborne Launch Control System for the Minuteman missile.
Wow, that was pretty good. So do you
Yeah.
have your name in lights somewhere?
Nah.
No?
It was like everything else in the service, or at least my attitude is I was just going where I was sent and doing what I was told.
Okay.
And for the most part, having fun doing it.
So speaking of being a part of that Boeing, what other interesting jobs did you have while you were in service?
Well, I went from there to that. I was in transportation and logistics for a while. Got pulled during Vietnam and was in munitions. And lo and behold, excuse me, about 18 or 20 year mark in the service, I went back to language school for a second stint in Russian. This time I was in Monterey, California at the Defense Language Institute there. And it's kind of fun to say this. I lived on 17 Mile Drive, but it was actually the Pacific Grove part, not the part that was fenced off over in Carmel where the likes
Excuse
of
me.
Doris Day
Yes.
and
Yes.
Clint
You were
Eastwood
just
lived.
across the fence. It's just
We're
like,
over in the low rent district, if you will.
I understand, but you can glance over and
Well,
possibly
it was
see.
a couple miles down the road, but you just, when you're in the right frame of mind, you say, oh, I lived on 17 Mile Drive.
Well, yeah, of course, you can always say that.
But
What is the difference between military personnel and regular culture life for the civilian?
well, it's hard to describe, especially, I spent, we'll back up
Okay.
and retrace that. I spent only 9 years of my whole Air Force career in the States.
Okay.
So that you're looking at 14, 15 years living in foreign countries. I lived, the majority of it was in England, but the first tour I had after language school was in Germany. I got out, and then I had 2 tours in the Far East, one in Korea and one in Thailand. But the one in Korea, I did a temporary stint in Japan. And I must say the unique part of this, it doesn't answer your question, but the unique part of this is that I picked the Russian up by virtue of going to school. While I was in Germany, I picked up enough German to pass the government test at the same fluency level as I was in Russian. Lived with an expatriate Italian family so that I was conversant in Italian, and had a good enough command of German to go from Italian to German without having to think in English.
Wow.
And to our previous guest thing, I had 2 years of French in high school and lived in a Franco-American community in Maine. And while I was in the Far East, I picked up enough Japanese, Korean, and Thai to be conversant in those languages. But to answer your question, in addition to being exposed to these different cultures, the people in the military community, not only the military themselves, but their dependents, are, when they're isolated, they're so dependent on one another.
Right.
And especially some of the isolated tours like our young men now are doing in Afghanistan and over there in that area, that when you come back, in addition to all the other things you have to recondition yourselves to, the civilian community is where a GI is working. Say we're both in a working situation, it would be nothing for me to say, hey, can you loan me 10 tonight? Or if you smoke, give me some. And whereas if you're at work, 90% of the civilian populace, you barely even associate with each other once you walk through the door, much less be treated like family. And it is like, and the closest thing in civilian life to it would be the police or fire department. If that.
Okay. It makes sense. Okay, so you're telling me that the civilian life is that of more of separation, where military life is more family.
Yeah, and you can take certain subcultures within the civilian life, I think, tend to be much more close-knit.
Then
Looking at say, at your background as not being originally from the U.S. and look at
the U.S.
your culture. And
oh yes, because we have a
as
tight-knit
opposed
family.
to, As opposed to over here,
Yeah, families
it's all
could be
so
all
loosey-goosey, and you might live with neighbors either side, and you
And I don't
barely
know
ever
their name.
civil to each
Yeah,
other.
I understand. Thank you so much, Larry, for coming in. Thank you for serving our country.
You're welcome. It was enjoyed it.
When we come back, we'll have a special performance by Kitty Ballard, Make You Feel My Love by Bob Dylan. Stay tuned.
When the rain is blowing in your face and the whole world is on your case, I could offer you a warm embrace to make you feel my love. When the evening shadows and the stars appear and there is no one there to dry your tears, I could hold you for 1,000,000 years to make you feel my love. I know you haven't made your mind up yet, but I would never do you wrong. I've known it out in my mind where you belong. I'd go hungry, I'd go black and blue. I'd go crawling down the avenue. No, there's nothing that I wouldn't do to make you feel my love. The storms of change are one wild and free, and on the highway of regret, the winds of change are blowing wild and free. You ain't seen nothing like me yet. I could make you happy, make your dreams come true. Nothing that I wouldn't do. Go to the ends of the earth for you, to make you feel my love, to make you feel my love.
That wraps up our show for today. I've been your host, Roxanne Rocks. Thank you for tuning in to CFS TV, and thank you for watching.